I do hope everyone's having a good time. My name is David LeBlanc. I am the development manager for the Systems and Tools team, which is one of the development teams at SolidWorks. This is Kevin Burney. He is the user experience manager behind the CAD admin dashboard. So almost all of the workflows and the general UI layout and all of that went through his capable hands before it ever made it onto the screen that you see here. One of the things I'd like to say about this particular project, having been at SolidWorks for almost 12 years now, this has been one of the most collaborative efforts that I've ever been involved in. We're pulling data from our front-end customer center team, we're pulling data from our back-end feedback group, and we're pulling data from our web team all together into one tool. And it's been a really big effort. And I just want to mention that it goes to a lot of people at SolidWorks that made this tool happen and make sure that it got out to you in a form that's stable and usable and pretty. So if you see SolidWorks people from the web team or from our front end, or you talk to people in the customer center, those are the people to say thank you to. And you all showing up here to this session is the thanks for Kevin and I. So before we begin, quick raise of hands. Who in here is a CAD administrator, either specifically or just because they make you do it? All right, that's like 90%. Are there any VARs in the room? We got any VARs here? One VAR. All right, thank you. So the reason I ask that is because the tool can be used by anybody who's got to log into SolidWorks. So that will be something that could be a collaboration point between VARs and CAD administrators. I'm also just happy to see how many CAD administrators are here. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I would come to SolidWorks World, the CAD admin track was like 2 sessions, and now it's much more. So one more quick poll. How many people with 25 or more machines in your install base? Oh geez, 50 or more? 75 or more? Wow, okay, so this is why we're here. We designed this tool for you, and I really hope that you enjoy what we've got to present for you today. All right, he's writing down numbers. All right, let's go ahead. So what we're going to do today is we're going to introduce you to a brand new tool at SolidWorks called the CAD Admin Dashboard. We're going to quickly go over what it is and how it gets data. Then we're going to go over a quick login demo just so you know where to find the tool. And then we'll actually get into what's the meat of the project, which is, hey, I've got a bunch of questions as a CAD administrator. How can I use this tool to try and answer some of those questions? We'll wrap up everything by doing a short slide on troubleshooting so you kind of know what to look for and who to call when you go have a problem with it or if you're seeing that data's not coming in. And we're also going to talk about what's the future direction and how you can all be involved in what the next phase of this tool is going to be over time. All right, so what is the CAD Admin Dashboard? Quite simply, the CAD Admin Dashboard is a new online tool that we've developed to help CAD administrators track, review, and troubleshoot their machines in their SolidWorks install base. Whoop, we're behind. There we go. No, that was good. The main focus of the tool is not to say, I'm going to tell you every problem you have. The main focus of the tool is to help you identify things that are anomalies or outliers in your install base. Most of us work in an install base that says, this is my machine spec. I am supposed to have this stuff on my machine. If I don't have that, that's an outlier. That's an anomaly. I want to know about that. If everybody in your system is running great and you get one guy that starts crashing, that's an anomaly. We want to find out that he's crashing and why. So that's what the tool is designed to do. The other piece of the tool is that it can help you to plan future rollouts. Because it gives you your information all in one heads-up view, you can see all your hardware information, all your SolidWorks information together in one place and say, okay, this is how I need to proceed going forward. I need to migrate a certain set of machines to a new machine, or I need to migrate a small subset of machines to a future service pack to be able to deal with something. So in that way, using this information, you can try to plan your future as you're going along. And you can also use it to justify, hey, look, we've got these many guys with only 2 gigs of RAM. They need RAM. We work on 20,000 component assemblies. Please, give us the RAM. So where does the CAD admin data come from? The CAD admin data comes from the Customer Experience Improvement Feedback Program. Yeah, go. I don't know how many of you have checked this box when you either install or come back later and check it later. Oh, boo. Okay, so your first task after this session is to go home and turn this on for all of your 2013 installations and in fact your 2012s, because you'll get a benefit in 2012 even though that data is not available on the CAD admin dashboard. But for 2013, you got to make sure this is on. It comes to us in two streams. First, we're going to upload your hardware information and your options information at every startup of SolidWorks. And the first question I get whenever I tell someone that is, oh my goodness, is it going to make SolidWorks slower? No. We've made sure that this is done on a separate thread, it's using a separate core on your machine, and there's no effect to your startup. The reason that we do this at every startup is because we want to make sure that if you have a change in your hardware or a change in your options that could affect your users, that it gets posted back to the website as quickly as possible. We want to know that data instantaneously. The next piece that we have is the performance log data, and most people are familiar with this, especially if you work with technical support. We've asked you for a performance log for a crash somewhere along the way. If you've used SolidRx to pack up data and send it back to SolidWorks, you've packed up a performance log and sent it back to us manually. Normally we send these back automatically just based on a criteria. So once a week we'll send it back. We'll send it back if it's more than 100 kilobytes, and we'll also send it back at the time you have a crash. So when you see the SolidWorks crash dialog show up and you hit send, that's sending your performance log plus some other crash information so that we can use that to process, look for crashes, look for trends, and then try to get fixes out preemptively before you even report them back to us. We use all of that data in the performance feedback tool. So the moral of the story is remember to turn on the Customer Experience Improvement Program. I can't stress that enough. If you don't have machine information there, that's probably the first thing to look at and make sure that that's turned on. So we'll go through a quick login demo. And there's two URLs you can use. You can use solidworks.com/cadadmin to go directly there, or just use your customerportal.solidworks.com login. That's what we're going to use for this demo. Customerportal.solidworks.com, once we get there and log in, it's going to give you just the link over to the CAD admin. So there's not any other additional functionality. It's just that that's the input loop for us. So you'll see that we have it under references. You'll also see that it's over under the quick links section. And eventually we'll get there. So this is the CAD admin dashboard. At the top, you have information that is summary information so that you can get a quick heads-up view of all the machines in your system. You can see that it's paginated. On this particular one, we have 53 pages of machines. And there's also a quick drop-down to get hardware information for that specific machine. The bottom portion gives you detailed information about your options, your machine details, your SolidRx benchmark, and session details. And it's organized into tabs. So that's just a quick high-level, quick view so you get an idea of what the tool looks like and how you log in and get to it. So the session, now we start. I mean, this was just the, hey, get in, get it out. Now we're going to start answering questions with it. How are we going to do all that data?
Before machines will show up, you have to wait roughly a week or a crash, and then they're going to start populating?
No, we're going to cover that. So we'll talk about that. And there's also some information in the troubleshooting section I'll cover when we get there. So good question, though. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you have multiple sites that can be able to differentiate those, or is it just going to be one customer?
All of your information shows up as one customer, but we'll talk about how to group that information together so that you can sort and filter on it. So. All right, good. Well, here we go. So I'm betting most of you have had this question at one point or another. And that is, how do I make sure everyone's got the same templates? In big organizations, people have standardized templates. They either use them through PDM or they put them in a shared directory and then everybody's supposed to point to the same place. And then you get one guy who turns in a drawing that's completely wrong. because he didn't use the right template, or he didn't have the right preset views or something like that. So by checking the user options, which we can do with the CAD admin tool, you can actually track who's out of spec with the different options that you have. To be able to do that, we set a baseline. Setting a baseline, all it means is taking a snapshot of the options at a specific time. Now this goes into why we upload the options on every startup of SolidWorks. If you're the admin and you configure your administrator machine with all the options and everything, you run SolidWorks, those options are then posted up to the SolidWorks website and available for you there. Once you hit set baseline, we actually make a copy of those. Now the one question some people might have is, well, why don't you tell me just this machine is always the baseline and always link everything to that machine? Well, as the administrator for the compiler at SolidWorks, I know that when I have pushed out a set of options and then someone comes back to me with a problem, the first thing I do is I go to my machine and start playing around with the options. So if every time you start up SolidWorks you keep pushing all the options up, you would be constantly changing your baseline, which is not what you want to do. You want to be able to have the time to experiment, come up with a new set of options, and then you can reset your baseline again. So you can set your baseline as many times as you want. You can set it 5 times a day if you want, but it'll only happen when you actually say, I want to set it to this specific set of options. So let's go ahead and demo this. It's a quick demo. Basically here you see that we have one machine that's already got matched options. There's no changes. So there's no details down in the details section. If we scroll down to the Sal Strudel machine, you can see he has a bunch of modified options. And I hope you'll be able to read this in the back, but you can see that he's actually got a setting for the drawing document template, but the baseline doesn't even have a value. It's just left as null. So I want to set this machine instead as the baseline. I click on the action column icon. It confirms that change. And the whole dashboard is going to update. Now, all of the machines in my entire group are going to be based to that baseline. Excuse me, not group, but my entire company. So now everybody is matched to that baseline. And if I go back to the admin baseline, I can see now he's out of spec because he doesn't have a value set for that particular option. So that's how baselines work. The other thing I'll show here is how do we do comments. Since a baseline is a snapshot in time, I might just want to make a note. You go to the comments column, double click, you can enter a note, hit OK. That note is saved back to the server. If you have to turn this over to your partner, who's also a CAD admin or someone else, and he needs to look it up and see what's going on because you happen to be on vacation, he can see, oh yeah, Joe set the baseline on 11/24. He'll be able to see your comments so that you can keep in sync with everybody. So all that data is stored on the server. All the baseline information, none of this is stored in cookies. The next thing that we've found to be kind of a natural question after that is, okay, I've got everybody set, I've pushed out my options. Now what happens if somebody goes and changes something? How do I know? Do I have to go through each machine and look for each guy? The answer is no. We have a way to red flag machines in the summary section so that you can actually get them red flagged and pop them up quickly. So there's a red flag button down at the bottom. You choose your flag, and that turns on the flag for each of these. Yeah, let's do the demo. Again, these demos are not hard. The UI on this is not a hard UI to use. What we're trying to help you learn is not so much here's the clicks that you need to do, but here's the information that you can receive. So once I go ahead and turn on the system options to match baseline or do not match baseline flag and I hit OK, we'll update. And then everybody's going to have a flag that doesn't match the baseline options. Now, this data is from our own internal set of computers. I mean, that's why there's 1,300 machines in this installation. And that's also why we have really wacky options, because we have all the developer machines in here, we have all of our QA machines in here. So getting options to match in our system is impossible. So, but in your installations, you guys actually have to use this to produce product. We're just trying to test it. So that's setting up flags. So let's pause here. Oh, that was a good pause. Are there any questions on options before we move on?
Is that live data? And if not, how do you manage multiple users on the same
on the same
computer?
Okay, the way that we create a machine account that you see at the top is that we look at the machine name, who's logged in, and what the serial number is. And we take a hash of that information. So your information is protected. I don't know anybody's username, but I hash that information together. And then that gives me a unique identifier so that I can identify each unique user. So if you have the same machine, you'll see the machine listed 3 different times, but you may not know which of the 3 users are on at any given time, but it will produce 3 accounts for you. Now, you can probably figure it out from times of usage and stuff like that, who's on, or maybe you know whose serial number is which, but we don't want to know that it's David LeBlanc or Kevin Burney or anybody else logged into that machine. That's information that we feel is protected information. It's yours, and we don't want to transfer that across the wire. So we hash it into something unreadable. It's not reversible, so we can never actually identify back. But we do get at least a unique account for that. Does that answer that question? Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir.
We have vault views, for instance, on different drive levels. Do they can count that as differences?
It depends on your baseline. If your baseline is set to a specific vault view, yeah, you might actually end up with differences. So that might be a case where you leave the flags off and you manually just use the information that says there's 24 different, and maybe you know that, if it only says 3 different, then I've got that. But yeah, there's not much we can do for that kind of multi-stuff. Excuse me? Repeat questions? Yes, sorry. So the last one was what happens with vault views in EPDM or in a PDM system if different people have different vault views mapped. How would that work with the options? The baseline is going to be whatever's mapped on that particular machine.
On different drive levels, like somebody has the same vault view, but they're using it on C, and somebody else has a network vault view on K.
Only if that information is in your options. So if that information is like, say, you're pointing to the templates on C colon something, and then your baseline was set up to be E colon something, yes, those would show as differences. It's just a simple string match. So there was a question over here.
Yeah, are you able to do the same thing on virtual desktops?
Excuse me?
Are you able to do the same thing on virtual desktops?
Same thing as what? Yes, we're able to track what, so the question is on virtual desktops, are you able to track the machine information? The answer is yes. I mean, it's a Windows operating system and the calls are the same. So even if those calls are faked to us, we have machine information to display. So.
What stops the user from going in and changing the baseline?
At this time, so good question. What stops the user from going in and changing the baseline? At this time, nothing. There isn't a specified administrator for the CAD admin. That was a feature that in the Rev 1 tool we couldn't get in. So that is something that we've heard right off the bat, and we are aware of it. We're trying to figure out how we can make that work. Because the problem then becomes, you left the company, how does anybody get in? So. All right, so options was easy, right? It's a lot harder though to figure out who's crashing, I would say, right? Maybe. How many people here have problems with crashing or have had it at least once? Okay, that's right. I should see 100% in this room, right? So no surprise there. So we're going to take a theoretical guy named Frank. I should probably change his name to John, but that's all right. But we're going to try and say, hey, is Frank, he says he's crashing 5 times a day. What's going on? It's really difficult to tell sometimes whether or not someone is really having stability problems. Sometimes it's perception, sometimes not. And the only way to do that is to measure it. And the way our tech support team, when you contact our tech support and you get through to a tech support guy and they're like, hey, I've got this guy who's crashing all the time. What are you going to do? And the tech support team is going to turn around and go, okay, can you have that guy keep a log while he's using SolidWorks and write down every time he crashes and just write down in the log what he was doing at that time. And then, if he hangs and he kills it, have him write that down too. Well, hopefully we won't have to do that anymore. Hopefully when that guy comes to you, before it ever goes to your VAR, but when your employee comes to you and says, hey, I'm crashing, you can review the last 60 days of session details for that user right on the CAD admin, and you can see very clearly how many times has he crashed, how many sessions has he had, How many killed sessions has he had? Maybe he got frustrated and killed it. Maybe it wasn't actually a crash. He was just waiting for PDM or there was a network error. You know, we don't know all of what the reasons are for someone killing it, but there are several. By using that, it helps take out one step in that tech support process. When tech support comes back to you and says, well, can you give me the information for these crashes? You actually have it right there in the session details. You can say, hey, go look this number up. And they can take that back, look up that information, and then pass that on to the development group. Yes, sir?
Is there a lag between if it's sending that information once a week and if they don't hit that button when it crashes to send it to SolidWorks?
Yes, there is a lag. So it's once a week. If they don't do anything, it's once a week or 100 kilobyte log file. And then on crash, it's immediate. If they decide not to send back on a crash and they are subscribed to the Customer Experience Improvement Program, as we all should be, for using this tool, then the next startup of SolidWorks after a crash, it will automatically send it at that point if the Customer Experience Improvement Program is turned on. Okay, so even if we miss a crash or the crash dialog doesn't come up, we're going to get that abnormal termination on the next startup of SolidWorks. And then from there, once we get it in the back end, it takes approximately 48 hours for it to get from us getting it processed into the database all the way back around out to the web UI. So there is a lag on session details. Again, machine details you should see instantly. Go run your SolidWorks 2013, go into the CAD admin, see your machine. No session details. Do a bunch of sessions, do a bunch of work, come back a couple days later, you'll see your session detail information. So one other note on that, just since we did pause to bring it up, this is something that we've been really proud of because we've been working very hard on it. As far as our processing, when we receive these packages of data, we're processing anywhere between 70,000 and 100,000 packages from SolidWorks per day. That 70 to 100,000 packages represents between 120 to 200,000 sessions of SolidWorks that we're receiving every day, processing, and then pushing back out to you. So, and we have no backlog. There's no waiting. As soon as we get them, they're in, and they're out the next day. So we're really hoping that, that you guys are going to see good turnaround on this tool because we've made the infrastructure strong and robust so that we can get that data back out to you quickly. So let's take a look at this live instead of just on the slide here. We do have a demo of it. I have a demo of everything because it's fun to see it. We're going to sort first. So sort these machines so we can find Frank. And if you take a look at Frank over in the session details on the right, it actually doesn't have any red stuff. So I'm not really sure if he's been crashing at all. And if we do the session details and take a look, in fact, he's had a lot of good sessions and he's had some killed sessions, these orange ones. You can also see that the date range will default to the 60 days that we keep data for you, that we show you data for. And you can narrow or widen that as you need. And we'll click on this long session here, and we'll show you the session details down at the bottom. So here you can see it was a killed session, or for some reason it terminated abnormally. You can see which service pack was for that particular crash or that particular session. You can also see his hardware information. So if we go up to Joan, she's got a lot of red in her tag at the top, which is just a quick view of how many crashes and killed sessions. And here you can see that she actually does have several killed sessions, and some of them were long running. So if we look at this one and scroll down, oh, did that fall off the bottom? Nope, you can see at very bottom, it's not, and a 9-hour and 5-minute session. And we do hear from customers that sometimes very long sessions, you need to shut down SolidWorks and restart it, that kind of stuff. So maybe it's just a long running thing. She was trying to leave it open for too long or forgot to close it that night, and then came back in the morning, tried to start working in it, and it didn't work. So that's one way that you can see some of the data quickly. For each individual guy, you can see all the details of the last 60 days. What's been going on? Good sessions, bad sessions. Now, just like when we're talking about the options, again, you want to get a notification that this is happening. You want to know when someone starts crashing a lot. If that guy was running fine last week and he had no crashes and all of a sudden starts spiking a bunch of crashes, you want to get that information. So again, we could use the flags, but the first question you have to answer is, what's your threshold? What does a lot mean? Does a lot mean he's crashing 25% of the time? Does it mean he's crashing 10% of the time? That question is going to be different for every installation and possibly even different users. But it's really going to be dependent on your organization and what you do with the software, how good or bad your hardware is. There's a lot of variables into what you would want to make as the acceptable threshold. This is a place where you can use the tool to iterate on fixing issues with our tech support and also iterate on your future plans. We need hardware upgrades because the hardware can't handle 100,000 component assemblies, whatever that challenge may be in your individual installation. So the option that we have is a percentage of normal sessions. In other words, if his normal sessions threshold drops below 75%, in other words, he has 25% killed sessions or crash sessions, then we need to flag this particular account as having a problem. This particular machine is having a problem. And again, that's the crash percentage over the last 60 days. So you can get that notification. So let's do this guy and see if we can show how that goes. Get it? Wrong slide.
Quick happy.
So we're going to go back to the options. We still have our red flags turned on from the options that we did earlier. Turn that off. We'll turn on this and set a 75% threshold. So we need 75% good sessions. And if we don't have 75% good sessions, we'll throw a flag. Once that updates, you'll see that we have a few fewer flags in there. But we still have a lot of people that are red flagged. So one way that you might want to approach this is to lower the threshold, like down to 50, and just go after those people who are really having massive problems first. Those are your critical installation seats. Those are the ones that need the attention most, and they need the attention of our tech support the most. So by using these flags, it's kind of another filtering mechanism that you can use to try and get to the most critical people in your organization as quickly as possible. So this is the last one we have on crashing and diagnosing crashing with the tool. And this is the case of kind of so-and-so started crashing all of a sudden, and it's really bad. We don't know what happened, but something happened. I would guess everybody here has experienced putting Windows updates on their machine, and all of a sudden something stops working. I'm assuming graphics card drivers is also something you've all seen, that you tried to switch to a graphics card driver, maybe it wasn't approved, and now we had stability problems. What we can do is combine a couple of different things to be able to look at a crash and then try to correlate it to possible changes on the machine. So if there's been a change on the machine and you're looking at the machine details, that was the wrong click. Just click one. There we go. If you're looking at the machine details, because it's harder to see in the video, you might get this little eye icon in the history column there. What we're doing is we're looking at each time you upload that hardware and software information, we're saying, hey, you changed your hardware. You've installed a new version of SolidWorks. So we see that change and we can report that to you. You've done a different graphics card than what you used to have in here. That's a change. We're going to report that to you and we'll give you the date that we see it reported. So now if you can identify, they changed their graphics card driver and they updated to Service Pack 1 yesterday and they started crashing a lot today, now you've got something correlated that you can bring back either to your person and say, hey, guy, get the right graphics driver, or you can bring it back to our tech support and say, hey, what's wrong with Service Pack 1? Come on. Yeah? So let's go through this one because this one's actually a little bit longer and it's a little bit, it's got a few different steps that you'll want to look at. So we'll go back to Joan's machine because she's got the most crashes here. And again, we already looked at this session that has a long crash time. So just looking at the session details is the first step. Are they on the right service pack? At the time of the crash, which OS did that machine have? So maybe you switched OSs somewhere along the line. And then looking at the session length is an important thing. Seeing if that somehow correlates. Are all your long sessions crashing and it's all the short ones are good or something like that? So you might be able to make some correlation there. From this area, we can actually go back out and go to the machine details. Whoop. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. we go up to the machine summary just to get a quick view. And there's two icons there. The one is graphics card unsupported. The other one's low memory. Now we're going to come down to the machine details, and I'll show you what those mean. When you go to machine details, that's filtered, and then Joan is already highlighted. So you can see her information. And you can see that she's got only 4 gig of RAM, but she has a 64-bit machine. That combination, anything 4 gig and a 64-bit or lower, is a flag to us that you have low memory condition on that machine, because that's not enough. If you're running 64-bit, you need to be over the 4 gig of RAM for most customers. The reason to going to 64-bit is to handle far bigger assemblies. And when you only have 4 gig of RAM, you just don't get the performance that you really want. So the other piece that you can see down here is all these information buttons. We're going to go to a different machine and take a look at that, because this will show you a guy who did update his graphics driver and he updated his SolidWorks on the same day. And how does that help? Again, that helps is if you know that date when something changed on the machine, you can correlate that back to a crash. If you know that this machine is really doesn't have enough memory, that can be a cause of crashing, even on 64-bit, even with lots of page file. Page file slows you down. It's not a good thing. Maybe they're just getting frustrated and killing it because they don't have enough space to actually run. So again, the tool cannot give you answers. It can't tell you that is the problem right there, but it can help you to put pieces of the information together that currently you've got to be a SolidWorks guy who knows SolidWorks. You might need to be working with a tech support guy, and you've got to know all this stuff in Windows and where to find it. Now it's all in one place, and you can access it easily. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kevin and let him talk to you about benchmarking and how to check and see that your performance is in line. Oh, yes, sir.
From my experience, crashing usually is because of the model that's being open and not usually the hardware itself.
Okay.
Does this track what models are open during crash code?
So the question is, does this track which models are open? And the answer is no, for privacy reasons. Now, if we start hearing from customers that is not a privacy concern to return model names or some other identifier of your model, we would be open to working on that. But at this time, according to our end user license agreement, that is not data that we feel comfortable returning.
If you make it an admin where only the person can change the settings or whatever, they can switch it on and off, allow that or disallow it, make them decide.
It would be a SolidWorks, yeah, it would be a SolidWorks side change. Yeah, yeah. So the question there is if we had some sort of CAD admin specific guy who was a login, it was private, could he then change it on the website? The answer is no, because it would be a change at each installation of SolidWorks to have to allow that or disallow that. So, yes, sir. Yes, that is something you could do. So the question is, could you do an RX on that machine and then capture the models to try and get that data? And that's a very good interplay off that question. Hey, I don't know which models are crashing this. Let me try to do an RX, try to repeat it, and then get the models over to my tech support. That's a perfect come together between SolidRx and this tool. So, yes, sir.
I'm kind of lazy and don't want to log into this thing every day to check it. Can I tie the red flag with some kind of notification like an email?
Not at this time. So the question is, can I tie the red flagging to an email notification? And we'll talk more about how you can get that feedback to us in a way that's permanent and try to get it voted up. So, yes, sir.
Does it need to be installed on every computer, or can it just be installed on the admin computer?
Which?
Just the administrator dashboard.
This is not an installable, sir. So the question is this an installable that needs to be on every computer? No, this is a web-based tool accessible through the customer portal. So you can access it wherever you can access an internet connection.
Yeah, the only thing you need to do on each machine is turn on the
Customer Experience Improvement Program. That is a mouthful to say up here, by the way.
The checkbox on the first page of tools
Yeah,
options.
or at the end of the install. Yep.
Can we borrow showing hands and put like a happy
A little better than half, I think. Yeah, okay. Yes, sir, in the back.
The obvious question for me, since I'm the only marketer, is will I be able to see my customers' data?
We have a way that's currently internal. Oh, so he's a VAR. He's, I think, the only one in here right now, unless other VARs have joined us late. But he would like to know if he can see his customers' data on the dashboard. At this time, we do not have a way to have VARs view it. We have an internal debugging way, and that is under discussion about how we can roll that out as a tool. So, and that also has a lot of customer impact, obviously. So, yes, sir.
We have dozens of serial numbers that we're using. See those together?
So the question is, we have thousands of serial numbers in one company base.
Dozens.
Oh, dozens. Well, dozens. I thought you said thousands. That'd be great. You're our top cat admin right there. Yes, what we do when you log into the customer portal, we know your serial number. Your serial number is associated to a company. All those are associated together, so everything is brought into one. So that's why here on our slides, especially at the beginning, we have them filtered right now, but you saw 1,400 or 1,300 machines because all of the different serial numbers in R&D are represented here. So,
I think down.
Yes, here.
We have 3 regional licenses, and will they all be under one, or do I have to look under each region?
So the question is, we have 3 regional licenses, and will it all be in one, or will I have to go to 3 different dashboards? What?
Yeah, the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. Oh, you already tried it. Okay, thank you. Posted on the forums. That was it. There were 2 questions over here. Yes, in the back. That was you. So the question is, do all computers on the network need internet access for this to work? Yes, because there's no other way for us to get your data. In the front. Excuse me?
Do you have a detailed schema that includes all of the data you're collecting?
The question is, do we have a detailed schema of all the data? And the answer is no, but the performance log is open on your machine. You can go look at the data we dump into it, and when the crash dialog comes up, there is a link on the crash dialog that says, here's all the data that we're shipping back to SolidWorks, so you can look at it.
Our company is very concerned about security.
Absolutely.
You don't have something pre-prepared I can show to identify, hey, this is the only information that's going to.
You can run SolidWorks and take a copy of the performance log and show it to them. They can see all the data. No, well, so there's not a finite schema. It's not XML, so it doesn't have it's not a fully structured document. So the information that is shown will be things like your commands, how long you were in a command. Most of the data is about, where were you in SolidWorks, so that we can track back and look at what might have happened when it led to a crash, and also to get metrics to be able to look at who's using what in the software.
All those serial numbers that are in use under my company's umbrella show up here.
Say that one more time.
All home-use serial numbers.
Home-use serial numbers. So the question is, will home-use serial numbers show up here? All serial numbers associated to your company will show up here. If those serial numbers are not associated to your company because people purchase them individually, they will not show up here. So are we. The question is EPDM supported? Are any other tools in the SolidWorks suite supported? Not at this time. Again, this is a Rev 1 tool, and this is the first version that we have. We've actually been discussing with EPDM about what we can do around performance logging with them, but so far we have no future plans on it yet. So right now the CAD admin dashboard is specific to SolidWorks install seats. Yep, I'm going to make this the last one so we can let Kevin get going.
There are ways that in SolidWorks, one includes pulling the power cord. Would that be all exits from the SolidWorks? Are those captured in this?
So the question is, if I pull out the cord on my machine and I have a failure at that point, what will happen? Wow, we're getting deeper into the details of this than I thought we would. This is good. I like it. So when SolidWorks just exits for no apparent reason, whatever that case may be, what we have is we have a performance log without the proper exit tag. And what SolidWorks will do is on the next startup, it'll say, oh, I have a session that didn't properly close. it'll put in a proper close tag, ship the data back right away because it considers that an abnormal failure, and then we get that data right away.
Will it approximate the extra time?
No, you will have a start time with no end time in that case, I believe. So the question was, would it approximate the end time if it didn't know? No, because you might not run SolidWorks for another 2 or 3 days, and then we would get a really skewed value. So, all right, we're gonna leave it there. Let Kevin take over here with the performance benchmark because this section is actually far more interesting than what I already demoed.
Wow, that's
I think it's more interesting.
That's a nice introduction. Hey guys, I'm Kevin Burney, just to reintroduce myself. So the next part of this is, if we're going down the columns, is the SolidWorks Performance Benchmark tool. So you're going to see this as RX Benchmark in the RX Benchmark column in here. Move this over and make sure I'm on the right page. So really, this is just a way to get relative scores, relative performance scores on your computer. These are all collected through the SolidWorks Performance Benchmark tool, which you can run, and we're going to do a demo of that in just a second. The point of it is to answer the question, how fast is my computer compared to others? And this is actually all related to the, I think 2 years ago we did the Share Your Score website where you could run this tool, pump the score up. I think Anna Wood did a bunch of work on machine specs. People were saying, you know, what are other users putting together? What are they building for machines? How can I copy your specs? So we kind of tried to help formalize that process a little bit. Bottom line is there's a lot of people running this benchmark, sending these machine specs back up, and they're available on SolidWorks.com. So we're able to pull that data when you run it on your machines. We're able to pull that data into the CAD administrator's dashboard to see that here. So the whole idea is it's repeatable. It pushes your machine pretty hard. I think you need about 30 minutes to run it. All right. Push it over. So, bottom line here, SolidWorks performance test equals data in the dashboard. So, we're going to run a little demo of this. I just kind of want to show you guys where it is, what you need to do to get it set up, and to get the data in. So it's in the Start menu. You go to all Programs, you go to your SolidWorks folder, 2013 folder. It's in the SolidWorks tools. It's right there with RX. Actually, I think it's set up as an RX add-in, but you can run it separately. So it's right here. You pull it up, standard RX page like you normally see, and start the benchmark. This will give you a couple reminders. One, you probably want to reboot before you run this. Two, it's going to take about 25 minutes to 30 minutes. And three, you probably don't want to be running all kinds of other stuff on this. So, you know, for instance, editing video. So I've got this set up, I've got it running. We're going to do a kind of a fade out and a fade in after 25 minutes later.
Your shirt looks nice, brother.
Oh, thank you very much. It's because I ironed my shirt while I waited for this to happen. So basically it's going to do three parts. You're looking at, it's going to push the CPU, it's going to push input-output, and it's going to push graphics. You also get an additional score here, or a time score here on rendering, which we don't include in the roll-up score, the overall score, because not every machine, it relies on real view, not every machine is set up to run that. So we keep that separate from the overall score. So then the important part here is once you're done, to use this Share Your Score link at the bottom. And so this kind of brings it back into that database of everybody else's machine specs that we're sharing. The only piece of identifiable information here is a name that you put in yourself. And so we do this so that when you upload it, you can actually find it on the site and see where you compare to other people if you're using that website. And then we ask if you identify if it's a laptop or a workstation. But the key thing here is, unless you do this, since we're pulling data out of that Share Your Score system, you won't get it in the RX dashboard. So, and then once you hit publish, it actually shows up relatively quickly. I don't think we're subject to the... No, I don't. Yeah, we're done with that. So once you do that with your systems, the thing here is that it needs to be run on each system. So you need to ask users to run it. You need to set up a script to run it on people's machines. It needs to be run at least once so you can get some data here. Each time it gets run, we replace that score. So now that you've got some data up here, there's these 4 tabs on the bottom that we've been working with earlier. You're going to see an RX benchmark tab. You can pull in here and you're going to see some things. You're going to see the machine identifier that you guys have that's listed above that we were talking about earlier. So when we were talking about Joan, her name would be in there. You're going to see the last time that the RX benchmark was run, and then you're going to see all of your columns for the various pieces of the benchmark, so the component scores. And then we graph all this stuff on the bottom for you, so you can take a look at how your machines stack up against one another. The nice thing about this graph is you can actually kind of eliminate pieces of it. It's a little bit customizable. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and demo that. So we come in here, we're just going to kind of take a quick look. So notice this is our internal data, so it's kind of a mess, and not many people have run the RX benchmark. So the first thing I did was just kind of sort by that column. You can click on the columns to sort them ascending or descending. So it updates, and here's my machines that have run the benchmark. So one thing we did here with color coding, there's the machines in red or the dark orange color are actually, we're comparing those to your company average. So everybody that's run them across your company, the ones in red are above average, the ones in green are faster than average. So that stuff's available there. Then, are we running here? Yeah. Okay. I had that timed pretty good. So then we're going to pull up this bottom section. You can kind of pull that separator between to give yourself more room for graphs to view more of the table. So here's all that data again that we were talking about a minute ago. It's all sortable. So if you want to see who hasn't run it in 6 months or 8 months and you're hoping to pester them to get them to run it again, or you want a certain group of machines to all run it so that you can see, all right, who needs the next upgrade or something, that's available. And then you can sort by each of the options available that are part of the benchmark. So here I did CPU, so we'd sort the machines across the bottom of the graph by CPU. And then we're looking at our slowest guy here on the end, obviously the largest stacked up bar chart. And like I said, this graph is a bit customizable. So if you come in here to the legend and you start fooling around with it, you can click on, say for instance, everybody's getting a new hard drive and it's all going to be the same one. You can take off the I/O. You can take off graphics, so you can just view what the CPU scores are relative to one another. Give it just a second to. Apparently, I'm talking too fast. And then the other piece is we do plot those two, the worldwide average and the company average scores on there. And you can kind of remove them or add them back if you want. But that is the overall score against everybody. So turn everything back on, the worldwide average. So again, worldwide is that share your score data. So everybody that's been pumping data back into that, you're kind of seeing a look at what the worldwide benchmark is for various machines. And we keep up with that. And if you want to take a look at that data, we've provided a link here to get to that Share Your Score site and to view all of that data. Say what? Yes, those averages are on the overall score. Huh? Oh, does anybody have any questions about that stuff? Go ahead.
I noticed when I ran this the first time, I would get a good number. And running on a computer, I knew it was a lot slower, and I get a faster result. And I think it was the graphics issue. Go back and run it on the same machine, get a totally different result. And it turned out to be whether it was pulling a license that was available or not, or something above and beyond SolidWorks standard. Does that seem to be possible?
It is a possibility.
Yeah, that is possible because it could. photo view. Yeah, it could be photo view if you are using an SNL and you have it locked down. So
does that affect the composite score if you're running with your photo view?
it unfortunately does at this time. So, you may see some variance if you are having license checkout issues, or if there's a particular reason why it's waiting for a license to be checked out. It could affect the score because we don't have the ability right now in that test to be able to just say, well, we know we're checking out a license right here, exclude this time from the overall test time.
Others?
Right in front of you.
Oh, go ahead.
Under machine details, do you have details with respect to hardware information, like what version of video card and stuff?
We do. We're actually going to cover that in just a second, but that's actually one of the things we were flagging. So earlier, when Dave showed the, in the kind of summary section, the top pane, there's a machine details kind of column, and that'll have the low memory errors, and it'll have an icon for graphics card that's the driver's out of date. So those two are there. They're also flaggable conditions.
Hard drive size?
We're going to get to that in one second.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in just a second. The question was about hard drive size, but I'll show you all of what you get in a chart form in a second.
Got one more. Right in front of you.
Sure, go ahead.
We haven't rolled out 2013 yet. Is it possible to include this into an admin image post process so that it gets installed and it fires up an RX and does a bench test right off the bat? So my fresh install 2013 all has brand new benchmarks.
Okay, so the question is, can you run that automatically as part of your install and admin image process?
That's
the right question.
That is a good question for us to find an answer to. That's one that we will post back. Actually, if you can post it on the forums.
I think the answer is yes. I'm not 100% sure.
We have another. He's going to be our forum answerer here.
Yeah, you can kick off tasks as part of the.
I think this is like you can do it as a batch run.
Right.
Yeah, you should be able to do it as a batch.
And you really want to do it at a time when the guys aren't using their machine for anything else. I mean, if you're off spinning some other process, it's going to kill your CPU performance. So.
Right.
Well, they'll be loaded off hours anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that works out perfect.
Okay. All right. We're going to keep cruising along a little bit here. Where did we leave off? Okay. So this is kind of jumping into that next section. So the question is, I have all these machines. Which one needs the next upgrade? So basically, you have a lot of data, and as I've talked to people about, that have been using this tool and what they like about it, the first thing is probably the simplest, is that it's collecting all this stuff in one place for them, and they no longer have to keep track of it. I've talked to quite a few people that are just like, I'm keeping track of who's got what in an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm going back and forth trying to keep that updated, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. And just the fact that you're giving this to me, I'm pretty excited about. So we're keeping track of a couple of things for you here. So one is your question earlier. We keep track of free hard drive space, so you're able to sort by that. Additionally, we're keeping track. We've got things like the machine model number. So if you guys have standard systems, I just bought all HP workstations. You're going to be able to see who's got the ones you bought this year. You're going to be able to see the ones if there's a different model number. You're going to be able to sort by that as well. The other thing there that we're keeping track of is graphics cards. So who's got which card and who's got which graphics card driver. And then that's one of the flags is if your driver is not one of the certified ones, we're flagging that as well. And then the last one, probably also useful, is just sorting by who's got how much RAM. So one of these systems has 2 gigabytes of RAM in it, so probably a good candidate for getting updated. Do you want to zoom that? Just use the Control 1.
It's probably not the best resolution for you guys.
I think this should work better on the. I think what was messing it up was PowerPoint. But Yeah, so there's a variety of things that you could do. We even grabbed the Windows Experience Index, if that's something you're interested in. And these are certainly things we're happy to hear about. If there's other things that you want to see or you think we should be keeping track of for you, we want to hear that kind of feedback. All right, so just cover a couple of quick things about kind of sorting and sifting and managing this. So, it sounds like there's a lot of you that raise your hands in this room that have a lot of machines and a lot of instances that you're going to want to keep track of. So how do you do all of that? That's a great question. So I'm going to show an example here, our data. Go ahead and hit it. Filters are your friend here. So for our data, if you notice, there's page 1 of 55, and there's 1,353 machines that we have data available here for. So you can kind of, if you hit next, it'll circle them for me. Yeah. So the way to keep track of this is a filter tool. And you've noticed we've stolen the filter from the feature manager tree, so it will be recognizable. But for right now, the criteria that we're allowing you to filter, or that we're making available for you to filter on, is last used SolidWorks version, the operating system, group, which we're going to get to in a second. Go ahead. Is there an export to Excel? I would love an export to Excel. And that's, like we said, we kind of had to draw the line somewhere, and we know that that's going to be something you guys want. So definitely that's something we want to, hear more about, vote up, figure out what you want to do with it. But yeah, it's not available at this point. You can also group by computer model, graphics card, and CPU. Oh, that's all right. I did it to you, so it's your turn to get me back. And the other thing is, each of the columns that's in here is sortable, ascending, and descending. So you're able to do a little bit with that, a little bit more with the filtering. So let's jump over here and take a look at how to keep them organized. So let's so you've done your filtering. Now you've got maybe you know which machines you want to look at. You've got it filtered down. You want to just grab those again later another time. So we've added a grouping functionality here. So the little man with the or woman with the green plus is available, and that gives you the option to create and assign people to groups. So we're going to kind of run through a quick scenario of how that's going to work, and then we should be just about packed up. So here, if we were saying we want to just use certain simulations, say we want to get our simulation users in a group that we get to, there's a pretty big group of people here. There's a pretty long list, like I said, 1,300 something people. So we want to find a way to pull that down. So in this case, we're going to say that we're going to say that for ease sake, we're going to say that these people are all the ones we've upgraded to Windows 8. So we're going to pull open OS, and we're going to go down and check the Windows 8 filter options. Hit apply. Whoops, I don't want that many. So I want to keep the group manageable for our sake. So we get a small group here, and I can pick out, I'm aware of which machines are which, so I'm going to go ahead and select a few of them with the checkboxes to make sure that we have a manageable group. So I'm going to select some of those. I'm going to check the Manage Groups button, click the Manage Groups button, and we can start assigning them. Yeah, that's already actually, I think that's more like a bug request, but yes, we do need a checkbox for all. So you come in here, you add a group for simulation users, you're able to save this. The only thing is it's kind of, and then make sure it's checked and these guys are now assigned to that group. So the only thing to keep track of is the fact that yes, you still do have other filters applied, so you're still filtering by the old thing, so even though those guys are grouped, you're still looking at the larger piece. So if you come back another time, after these are all cleared, all you have to do is come back in. It takes a second to load these 1,300. And then filter again by that group that you just named. So in this case, it's simulation users. Which, click, and we're done. So, at this point, I'm going to invite Dave back up here. And we're going to talk a little bit through kind of what happens if you're having trouble.
Yeah, so we already talked about it at the beginning of the presentation. Your very first stop, if you don't see any data on your CAD admin dashboard, is first, well, make sure you're running SolidWorks 2013 because it's new and cool and we want you to run it. And it's faster, so that's good. But also you need to check the customer experience improvement program option on every seat so that those seats start reporting their data back both to the hardware information so we can actually see the machine and know about the machine on the front end. And then they'll also start uploading their performance data so we can start getting session data and getting that populated for you. And this is something that I think a lot of you can do even in your testing as you're looking at moving to 2013. You can start turning this on and just trying it out. If you're in a service pack of 2013 and you're testing and you start crashing, you're going to get that information right back. So there's also that added benefit of having that data earlier rather than waiting till later. Yes, sir.
On the checkbox, is there a possibility of allowing the admin to lock that in place?
You first.
Locking is something that we looked into doing and is fraught with more issues than we were able to get to at this point. So for now, the compromise was keeping track and flagging when they're changed. So we don't have the ability to lock.
Right. We don't have the ability to lock options right now. But it should be fairly easy for you to see that this guy turned it off and he's no longer updating any session data or anything else. A comment that's come up several times, I've heard it a few years in a row, has been, well, I don't want to turn this on because it's going to kill my performance. Even if you turn this off, all the logging is still happening. It does not change the fact that logging is actually happening to the log file. All it does is turn on or off whether or not we automatically send data back. So there's no performance hit to you. You're going to log no matter what, because if you then need to do a SolidRx or you have a crash, we can go back and look for those archives and find those logs. So there's no performance hit here. Yeah. I had a couple of questions in here. Striped shirt. The question is, if the user shuts this off, does it get flagged? And the answer is actually no, because now they're not uploading any data, so we have no idea what's going on. So, but they haven't uploaded any more options. So once they shut this off, it'll stop uploading the options. So that's a bug. Yeah. Okay, that's a bug. Yeah, we need. Right.
That's the first option to send that notification, then allow it to show.
Whoop, I didn't catch that.
Click that box, send the notification.
Oh. Yeah, actually, that's actually a very good idea. Yeah, if they turn it off, actually push the data back up.
Definitely investigate and figure out.
Yeah, we will definitely take a look at that. Yes, here in front.
Just a thought for everybody. I have an API written where it turns all my settings to what I want it for all my users, and I don't have to worry about that. It basically runs every time they start up a new file, it resets the settings, and everything's going.
So you've developed your own options locking system.
Yeah, it's basically an API.
Yep. So there's a question in the far back here. Yes, sir. Yes, when you configure your options, when you're configuring your admin image, so the question is, when you configure your admin image, can you just check this box and then push it out with it? Yes, the answer is yes, because in your admin image, you're able to set different options. You're also able to use the copy settings wizard to get a reg file that pushes out your information. So you can just set up your admin image with it on, push it out, and then go from there.
Is there a registry that shows that to be checked?
Yes, there is a registry key for that specific option. So,
yep. Did you have one, or did you want to?
Any other questions?
Okay.
Okay. So,
yeah.
So that's, that check, I'm glad that generated a lot of comments. I mean, that's not something that we've actually had an opportunity to get back from customers thus far. So throwing it out here is obviously the right place to do it. You guys are giving us the right type of feedback that we need to make this work better. As far as the session data, again, that's got to make a pretty long round trip. So if you're not seeing session data, maybe give it a day, maybe two, and just see if it posts in a couple of days. If they'd had session data for a while and then it suddenly cuts off and you don't see any for a week, that's probably a good indication that there's a problem with the sendback mechanism there. Now, when you have a problem like that, the next question is, who do I contact? I mean, this is customer portal. Is this, SolidWorks itself? What's the deal? The general, guidance that I'd like to give you today is that if it's something on the website itself, I'm missing a machine entirely. I don't have any machine record at all. I can't get to the CAD admin dashboard because it's locked out on my customer portal. When I try to link to it, something weird happens. All of that, the website kind of UI type stuff, if you bring that to the customer center, that's the place to start because they can get it to the web team faster. For all the session data and crash information, or if you're getting data but the data seems to be incorrect, like you're uploading hardware information, you're like, I know that's a Z400, but it keeps saying Z800. He's not a Z800. Get that stuff through your VAR and get it through tech support. No matter which direction you go, if you forget which one to put it in, the end goal is that you get an SR written, and that SR can then generate an SPR, and we can actually attack the problem in the back end. So that's really the end goal. No matter whether you go to the customer center or you go through your VAR and try to get it raised up through tech support, get them to get you an SR written, and then we can use that to make sure we can get it to the right groups in the back end. So does that make sense for everybody? Do those kind of seem like natural divisions for people? And we're trying to kind of go with what people are already doing. People are already contacting the customer center for web issues. So
let's do the last slide.
Last slides.
Yep. So what's next? As Dave said at the beginning, this is really our first cut at this. It's release 1. So we want to get you guys out there using it. We want to hear what it is. Now that you can see the potential of what's there, what it can do, what it can't do, we need your feedback on what to do for improving it. So we're hoping to get users, we're hoping to get VARs using this. We need you to report those issues back with data, with things that aren't working right. And then we're going to be posting something on the forums today. They just added a CAD administrator's dashboard section to the
admin group. Yep. Under administration forums, we've added a subcategory for CAD admin dashboard.
We're hoping to add ideas to that as well, so you guys can kind of submit those and vote them up and down.
Yeah, if you guys are familiar with the SolidWorks World Top 10 voting buttons, we'd like to actually do the same thing for CAD admin. And get a top 10 together so we can get you the most important issues right away.
Ultimately, I think we are responsible for this project, and we're going to be the ones keeping track of that. As far as keeping track of the forums, we're also, quite honestly, that's when we start to do another release. That's who we pull from for user testing to give people an early look at what we're doing, to make sure that when we do come out with another release of something, that you guys have had input and that we've gotten it right.
With that, I have just one final animation that I have to play, guys. It's got to be the spinning question marks. So, and we'll leave that. It's questions at this point. So there's no other content, but we'll go ahead and do more questions with people.
Go ahead.
If one of my users does have a crash and would not convince them to hit yes to send that, what can they expect from that? They be expected to log into the dashboard themselves and see a response?
So you're saying the user crashed, but they didn't hit the sendback. They do hit it. They do hit it. What's the expectation there? The expectation is that, it'll take a day, maybe two, for that data to make the round trip to SolidWorks through our system and then back out. So then they should be able to see that come up in their session details. So if they crashed, and they can review those session details as much as we can give them. You can always go into your archive. We archive everything we send back on your machine. And so you can always go into your archive and say, hey, this is actually exactly what I sent. Let me look at it and see if I can pull anything out of it. If they're a user that's having a lot of crash problems, we'll start leveraging that data in the back end with tech support. Tech support will do it with you to be able to try and fix those problems. So.
And we're hanging around too for a little bit.
Yeah, so we'll turn the mics off, and if anybody else wants to swing on up and have a discussion, please come on up.
Yep.